Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. Before I drive you all away, hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me over on Twitch if you like to catch me live either place. Okay. Uncharted linked to a couple of videos about, and we've sort of been, he's the lead developer for the World Ablaze mod, to TIK's videos, and I've watched some of TIK's work, and he does really good work. But I agree with a lot of his points. But I wanted to talk about this, and this all comes back to some of our debate over this and how necessary, useful, appropriate, whatever you may describe this in particular. And this is not terrible. Don't anybody watching think that I'm saying that that's terrible. I just don't know how much I really sort of like that or not. But and I see this with a lot of what's going on with histories, and sort of got me to not one that don't think it was one that Uncharted linked to TIK, and it was basically a video on why Germany had to invade Russia in 1941, and TIK is saying they had to do it because he's reading Joseph Goebbels' diaries as support for the viewpoint, and everything he's saying I entirely believe out of, hey Eagles, 1930, how you doing? Everything he's saying about reading about the diary and food and the need to invade the Soviet Union, you know, that it's correct what he's reading from the diary, but that doesn't mean the diary itself is a correct appreciation of the situation. It's Goebbels' appreciation of the situation. And also looking at, and I haven't fully rewatched his video on the German economy and how much it was geared towards war. And of course, TIK is saying it's, since 1933, it's primarily, and I may be putting little words in his mouth, but the German economy is pushing towards war. And yeah, economics. Yes, that's what we're talking about here. And it's a good way to drive away all the viewers of the video. And so I'm doing it because I guess I want to do that. But, and if you want to, well, I'm going to sort of keep the screen more or less here. If you want to just jump forward to gameplay, because that's what you want to watch, please do. But we're going to lecture. Hope we can get to Danziger War. Maybe this episode, we'll see about that. I don't know how long I'm going to go with this. And so, you know, looking at the German economy gearing up towards war. And that as an importance to understanding the motivations for war. And I know, and I don't know if Uncharted watched my response video to one of the videos he asked me about that I already made to TIK. And yeah, it's a long video, but and this won't go as long as that. Economics are an important factor in things. I don't want to diminish that. But I would say mostly for decision-making factors. That may be different than results factors, but for decision-making factors, economics are not in my opinion, the primary motivation why governments, and of course governments are run by people, do things and make choices. I have found most historians are Marxist historians. They are Marxist. I'm not saying communist, and I want to yeah, well, now just jumping to IKB's comment. Well, these were Goebbels' private diaries, so it's not his propaganda. It wasn't meant for publication. So, and I believe that all the entries are legitimate Goebbels entries. So, and I can get back to some of that, but that isn't my main topic here, and this is why this is going to go on. I was reading some years ago now, sort of an overview of 18th century history focusing on Western Europe. And about a third of the way into the book, it was written by an English academic of some sort, I stopped reading. It wasn't that the facts that he was saying in the book I thought were incorrect, but he was clearly a Marxist historian. And again, I don't want to say communist. Marx, when he looks at history, he sees every single thing through the lens of economics. Why does a nation invade some other nation? It's because of economics. Don't play the darkest hour, ahoy for it. Yes. Very good. Tennis, very good. So, and so I just stopped reading this book because everything he looks at on why things were happening in the 18th century was based on economics. And I would say most of the decisions of going to war outside of wars over the colonies, whether it's, Spain, but well, mainly those are clashes between the French and the British, because Spain, the British did fight the Spaniards, but the colonial possessions were fairly well set for Spain. Outside of the battles for the colonies, which were significant, but most of the wars fought in Europe, most of the political decisions, most of the alignments that were being made were in the 18th century were not made because of economic concerns. So economics might mean how many muskets a government can afford to theoretically buy, because most factories, I don't think, were state-owned in the 18th century. Yeah, everyone has different views, that's sure. And that's correct. But, economics are a factor. But they are not the deciding factor, in my opinion, of why things happen. Hitler, in my opinion, never goes to war over economics. Hitler has some understanding of economics, yes. He's not an economist, that's for sure. But he is always, all of his wars are either focused either on ideology or on immediate sort of military needs. Meaning he doesn't go to war for Norway because of economics. And yes, I know about the Swedish deal. No, he goes to war for Norway because it's of its strategic position and the threat that the British have to coming up here and possibly taking it and turning his flank. He does not want to see, and trust me, I know Hitler is not a good naval person. He does not get naval warfare, doesn't understand naval warfare. He is the last person you want to ask anything about naval warfare. But he does understand, the Battle of Jutland, the bottling up of the German naval elements in World War I, and that by owning Norway, you free that up, because if you can put aircraft here in the modern sense, it means you can move your ships, your submarines up along the coast and then out. Now, there's no real appreciable ability to, say, trade with America from here, but you can get out past Germany. And you got to remember and Denmark was just in the way. They didn't particularly, I mean, we can talk about various ideological reasons based on their racial views for going into Denmark, but it was really more just it's in the way. That when the Norway invasion is started, the conventional thinking is it's going to be World War I Part 2, in that there's going to be, France isn't just going to fall after one brief campaign. They don't know that that's going to happen yet. That is still oh shit, we just won. God, didn't expect that to happen. So, he's looking at keeping the decision for freedom of access, not wanting his flank to be turned, all of that. So we can look at things like that. Going into Yugoslavia, he doesn't do it for resources. He doesn't do it for factories. I don't know if he knows how much of a drain in manpower to occupy it it's going to be, but that isn't a factor. It's the factor that, oh shit, Greece isn't fallen to Italy for long battles and actually slightly being pushed back, and Yugoslavia just left the Axis and might be heading into the Allies' camp. So he has to react to it. So these are battles not done on ideology, but are done on tactical principles. His other wars are the ideological need to take land in the East, and he was planning a war against France and Britain, and that is ideological too, not economically based, and very little geography based. Yes, he wants to get back this bit of territory for sure from France, maybe a bit more territory, not all the way in here, but maybe a bit more territory. Maybe he's looking to get, the Netherlands and Belgium, maybe. But he ideologically needs to fight the French, particularly, but secondarily the British, to sort of prove that the Germans can defeat them. It's sort of an ideological, we're good enough to take you guys kind of thing that he feels. Because of losing the last war, he feels he needs to be able to battle France and win for his 1,000-year right to survive. He can't, even if for some reason France and Britain were to be passive while he moves east, he feels he needs to defeat them. So none of the wars are timed or pushed because of economic needs, in my opinion. And get back to TIK's and his look at the Goebbels diary. Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that Germany can produce enough food to feed itself. I'm not saying it can't, but I'm not saying it could. But you have to remember in 1941, there are massive trainloads of food coming in from the Soviet Union. And Germany's biggest limiting power for growing food in 1941 is not land. I'm not saying they have enough land in agricultural usage. That's part of the problem. But they need more manpower. And let's see, they send, more than 1 million men invading the Soviet Union. Maybe they could have had those 1 million men out on the farms. See, that instead of using those soldiers as soldiers like nations do, but nations also use soldiers as agricultural workers, they could have significantly increased the arable land use, they were making decisions based on ideology, both in the German Reich. This, which where I'm clicking, is the German Reich. This all is directly becomes part of Germany. All of this becomes part of Germany, and it's down here is the general government. And this is the general government. In both areas, they are making decisions based on ideology over economics, and at one level or another, they know they're doing that. And so it isn't about food, it's about why they go into it. It's victory disease. They've just destroyed the greatest superpower known to mankind, France, which in the beginning of 1939, that was an undisputed fact by most people, at least living outside of the Soviet Union, that France is the, if not superpower, the greatest power, military power on the face of the planet. Now, of course, they lose in summer of 1940 to Germany, but it's undisputed that France is the military superpower. Now, Soviet Union is just quietly having a more military production going on. So, which is a bigger power militarily than France is, but they don't know it. So Germany, Hitler particularly, but trust me, if German military didn't believe, they would have either ousted Hitler or just refused and convinced Hitler not to invade the Soviet Union. But they thought they were going to win. And let's check what the chat's been saying. Okay. Hello, General Beta. How you doing? You know, watch some, but this is good. Reminds me of your video on fascism and National Socialism when you played. Yes, thank you. It's sort of what I'm doing, but looking at the way historians view history. Denmark, H6, Infra Yugoslavia, strategic necessary. Hello. I'm going to call you Tingle. Is it Izul Tingle? I don't know. Yeah, strategic necessity. Yeah, because I don't think, you get some iron ore that's basically Swedish iron ore, but can only be shipped, half the year out through Sweden. Now, and the rest of the year they have to go out through Norway. Outside of that, and some glycerine from fish, glycerine factories up here that that they use to make explosives, and there's definitely some other economic benefits. Probably some of the wood is being used for rifle stocks and things like that. There are some economic benefits, but the amount of manpower to occupy Norway is significant and is just a drain from the situation. So yeah, it's not because of Germany needs Volodya, Siberia, and Slovenia for food. If we're talking down here, because I know of Slovenia down here. I don't know. I know eventually part of what this state is, not all of what this state is, but part of what this state is, does become actual part of the German Reich, is annexed in. The people are given German citizenship. I don't know how much food, as a percentage of German food's need, this part of the world is actually going to produce. I'm not saying it doesn't produce a surplus of food over its usage, but in the whole scheme of things, I don't think it's terribly much. Oh, for a German organized. I have a question. My PC, while I'm playing at 19 in Hoi 4, my PC plays the game very slowly. I get 15. Do you encounter it? No, I don't. I don't know whether that's a graphics card issue. If you want, you can scroll down on the Twitch page and see my gaming computer's stat. Challenger Mert, how you doing? So you can see what I'm playing with, and I seem to play the game very well, as well as stream it and record it at the same time. I do understand. Hello, Dredden. I do understand a great percentage of German ball bearings came from Sweden and was escorted by Oh, I've not heard that Sweden provided ball bearings. Schweinfurt is sort of the famous ball bearing factory, wherever Schweinfurt is, somewhere here, isn't it? It was one of the famous ball bearing factories that the Allies bombed, and were trying to knock the Slovenia, not Slovenia. Okay, then I don't know where you're talking about in the game that calls Croatian provinces. Hello, Muhammad Dick Privies? I'm sorry I'm butchering that. How you doing? Sure, I'm butchering your name. Didn't mean to. I'm just unfamiliar with that. So, yeah. Okay, Muhammad, I got that part. That I can say. Okay, so we have now, I will say at the scale of this game here, we've got what 11 more factories from Czechoslovakia. Is that right? And if you look at all of the aircraft that are produced out of Czechoslovakia, look at all the tanks that are produced out of Czechoslovakia, look out at all of the artillery that's produced out of Czechoslovakia, look at the massive small arms that are produced out of Czechoslovakia. At the scale that you're using these factories, I would say they should be 40 military factories in Czechoslovakia at this scale. This is nothing. 11 military factories out of Czechoslovakia. There should probably be 5 factories producing small arms, producing the Mauser rifle. The Bruno Arsenals were huge. I actually own 2 Mausers that were made in Czechoslovakia, one during World War II and one during the interwar period. But the Bruno Arsenals were significant. They made lots of artillery for Germany. They made the 38T tanks, which go into the Hetzers, which are also the infantry guns and all kinds of tank destroyers. They have an aircraft industry. They produce I forget the model name. They had made prototypes in 1939, just before the annexation of a new fighter aircraft, that, according to the German evaluators, that it wasn't, this is the point, it wasn't enough better than the 109 to justify having it in production alongside of the Bf 109. So it was better than the 109, but it wasn't enough better to either, yes, if you haven't already, please give the channel a follow. You can also, if you're on Twitch, you can scroll down and see a link to my YouTube channel if you want to watch the video some other time. So that they are already producing an aircraft, and so the Germans take that aircraft factory, and I forget what they produce out of it, but it produces aircraft engines, which are critically important to the German war effort, just the engines, and they also produce, I believe, and this is where I'm a little fuzzier on, I forget what airframes they convert the factory into producing, but they produce a bunch of aircraft there. So Czechoslovakia is massively producing German arms things. So I would say at the scale of usage that we're looking at here, somewhere between 20 and 40 more factories should come into line once you get Czechoslovakia. Okay, war generally doesn't use much GPU. I'm thinking but he's saying late game and it's not happening in early game, so I don't know. So GPU is probably the big things, Challenger Mert. And I'm using a 1070 card, or as you can see there, for my stuff. It's sort of a few years old now. The Nazi thinking was that the rest of the world would starve before Germany went hungry. Absolutely. Book by John Keegan, I believe. And that is, okay, and I do own some of his work, and I've read some of his work. John Keegan is a very, very good history. I've read a book, and it's been, 30 years since I read it. I still have it. The neutrals during World War I, and it was mainly looking at Sweden, Switzerland, and Spain and Portugal, and what was going on with them during World War I and what they were selling. And they very well could have covered it. I just don't remember reading specifically about ball bearings made in Sweden and bringing them into Germany, and then to get an idea of how much, as in percentage of German needs. So yeah, this is just not enough factories here on the scale, because I'm just looking at all these heavy weapons factories we have, small arms factories, artillery factories. Oh yeah, that is just what Czechoslovakia's armaments. And you got to realize Bohemia and Moravia, to be specific, but also this part, which, I mean, come on, man. And you've definitely, this here is Tatra. Tatra is located here. And whether you figure trucks are civilian or military, but yeah, two factories at this scale, maybe a bit more. But yeah, Tatra is there. And Tatra was, I think, a bit more of a German-owned Czech company than they want to needs. But most of Austro-Hungary's industrial power, at least heavy military production industrial power, was located here. So definitely some of it was down in Austria, but a lot of the Skoda works were building the main artilleries for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that's massive amounts, and particularly in Bruno, big factories there. Can you play the World War I mod? I have played the one major World War I mod. We'll do so sometime. I'm curious about how your Eastern Front goes. Last time I used World Ablaze, I found it easy. Well, we're going to see here coming in a while, not this episode. Okay, so that's sort of my talk on over-reliance on economics for political decisions that is crept into historians. Okay, let's see. And yeah, there were probably a few that went in there, but yeah. Well, let's increase that even more. Yeah, let's just go fighters and free civilian factories. Trying not to overly fill up any one province, but those will come along. Okay. Now, I have been training up a lot of troops here. Let's see. Let's get these guys coming over here. Get ready for our vacation in Poland. And going back to economic models and military production, or factory expansions, or whatever you want to call it. The plan was 42-43 for the big war against the Western powers. So that is when your clock should really start to run to its critical time, because Hitler was just going for a quick short war versus Poland, and that was it. He was not planning any sort of big operation versus Western powers. Okay, more factories are coming online. Good. Okay. Heavy artillery. We still have more than we need, but we're not producing enough, and we're going to be running into a war that's going to have high attrition levels. So I presume. Oh, we are also now needing more tungsten. So tungsten. Is that the right thing? Am I in the right spot here? Yeah, I guess. No, hold it. No, I'm not in the right spot. Here, over here. Now, here we go. There we go. There we go. What is your favorite war game? Well, for strategy war games, Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice is my favorite. But that doesn't mean I only want to play that game. That's just the one I like the best. And now we're gonna... Hearts of Iron 4 just has so much potential that it just doesn't live up to. Okay. Bomb damage vulnerability. Oil proof processing. Now, okay. We're going to do reassert Eastern, Western war plans. Let's look at this for a moment. Okay. Slovenia, Ribbentrop Pact. Bases in Greenland. So we're not really looking at that. Okay, so we need to do reassert Eastern claims next, I think. So let's do that. I hope this doesn't cause the war to start, because obviously the Ribbentrop Pact needs to come before the war starts. There's Danziger War. Okay, Danziger War's here. Again, I have not looked deep into, I was looking up here before, so we're looking at here. Danziger War. Barbarossa. Enzig. Integrate. Okay. Second Vienna Award. Okay, so let's go for this 14 days. Okay, sort of a sucky naval bomber, but we'll get some in production. Yeah, Black Ice really makes Hearts of Iron 3 worth playing. Okay, I think. Okay, well, I hope it doesn't break the game, but I'm planning on doing Danziger War Spring 1940. And if it breaks the game, well, then there's a problem with the mod, in my opinion, because it shouldn't be that detailed. Because I don't need the. You don't need to sit around for the winter staring at the Western Front. So, might as well take Poland, crush Poland, shift forces to the east, crush France. More summer, June, July, whatever, instead of May 40. Do it a little bit later, but get France crushed in 1940. At least that's the plan I have now. Maybe Poland will defeat me or something because I'm making mistakes. That very well could happen. And again, I'm still learning this, and just because I'm, if I do something, not building a large enough army or not building a large enough air force or whatever, I very well be making mistakes that are rookie mistakes and things that are worth worth learning and playing multiple times to really get them. Don't know what unplanned offensive, which will make you sit for a while. Don't know what that means there. So I have no intention of doing any sort of planning or now if you're talking about, which I haven't looked, if there's limitations on going against bases, the Netherlands and Belgium or anything, I don't know, in declaring war there. Oh, General Bayless, do you think those guarantees that the countries can make should only focus on nations you want to fight, to specify when England and France guaranteed Poland, they only fought Germany, not the USSR? Okay, okay, and your sort of general betas is question, at least as I'm understanding it, is interpreting the question into game terms. Okay, so France, I don't think so much England, but France gave guarantees of defense to Czechoslovakia. And it was mainly Chamberlain who convinces Czechoslovakia to give up the Sudetenland. So that's still sort of giving guarantees to Sudetenland or to Czechoslovakia and saying, yeah, Sudetenland, not really Czech, give it to the Germans. Germany then invades peacefully, but invades the rest of Czechoslovakia, does nothing. So the guarantees, the actual guarantees, are not terribly well observed. Now, okay, for Poland, Germany doesn't believe, because France had long-standing guarantees with Czechoslovakia and doesn't stand by them when either for the Sudetenland primarily, but secondarily for the rest of the invasion, doesn't go to war, doesn't believe the guarantees. Now, I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 2 weeks between the signing of the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact and the invasion of Poland. It's about 2 weeks there. It is almost happens. It is a real rush. I've read, I think it was Hans von Luck's book, and he was stationed in somewhere around here, I think it was. And the rush to get ready to, because he was part of one panzer unit or another, I forget right now, and the rush to get ready to invade Poland at that time, they were just like madly rushing to get in there and get ready. It was really caught the German army off on the wrong foot. They were not ready to invade Poland when Hitler orders them to invade Poland, so they're scrambling for it to get units in place to do so. So it's very much that they aren't ready. Now, and the reason I bring all this up is that, so, planning bonuses, all this stuff, that doesn't exist for Poland. Even it's just a mad rush to get units to the front and get ready to go. Now, while Molotov, while Ribbentrop is in Moscow negotiating with Molotov, there is a British-led, but a Anglo-British delegation to the Soviet Union negotiating, I forget with who, but another Soviet high official, negotiating in Leningrad to get the Soviet Union into an alliance with British and France. Through the official Stalin request, well, okay, we can see about an alliance. What is your position? And I think it was primarily, I don't know if it was exclusively, I don't know if it included Finland, and I'm pretty sure Romania, I don't think Romania was brought up, but they asked about the Baltic states. If we form this alliance against Germany, would the France and Britain, as part of this alliance, I don't know if allow would be the right term, maybe recognize Soviet Union's proper control over the Baltic states. Thank you, very loud motorcycle. And they even set off a car alarm, it's so loud. And basically the Western allies were like, hey, we want an alliance with you to defend against Hitler, not an alliance for you to go grab up more territory. Hell, basically no way. We're not allowed to negotiate that, just off the table. And since Hitler was offering Estonia and Latvia in eastern Poland, he was not offering Lithuania, and not really I don't really think Romania or Bessarabia was brought up, and authorized the Soviet Union going into Finland, since he acknowledged that. Now, of course, they end up swapping in a later pact, Lithuania for this part of Poland. Well, not all of this in the south. It was supposed to go here, but mostly this side. And that's why I hate the states. Again, you'll get my undying love if you get rid of the states in your mod, because it's this part. Poland should go to the Soviet Union, and Lithuania was going to be in the German sphere, and that would be a very possible thing. But Germany moves so well, so fast, that they get to here and sort of decide to keep it. And the Soviets sort of go, well, okay, but give us Lithuania. So, okay. So they swap the two out, more Polish territory for Germany, and Lithuania can go to the Soviet Union. So Stalin, in my opinion, was realizing that there was going to be a conflict with Nazi Germany. and was very willing to come in on the side of UK and France, but it was going to gobble up former Russian territory, particularly. And if they were to acknowledge that, well, I don't know if they're building radar. I don't know what they have here in radar. Well, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's Hearts of Iron thing or whatnot, but yeah, it seems a bit much. They haven't built any as far as I can see, but yeah, there's the slots. Unless that's German. Well, no, we can only build level 1. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, so this is going on at the same time. Now, the Soviet Union joins into the war. So this is, I think the British delegation packs up and leaves, and they have to. It's a very circuitous route to get back out. I think it's up through here. I'm not sure how they get back out, but the Franco-British delegation does leave once the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact is signed. They realize that any more negotiation is fruitless. In my estimation, that if they thought it was anywhere feasible, France and Britain would have also declared war on the Soviet Union for the invasion of Poland. But they realized that they just have no effing chance to fight the Soviet Union as well as Germany, and they didn't need to create more enemies. And from their negotiations, they know that Stalin's going to be picking up this other territory, and they realize, well, we can't approve them taking this, but we're not going to kick about it because we need them as eventual allies. So that is my understanding. And so, yeah, it should not bring Britain and France into the war. It should not, guarantee should not. And you got to be sort of tricky with some of the scripting like that to have that work. I know that's a long general beta went down. Okay, reassert Eastern claims. Memo, Lithuanian government agrees to our demands. Memo will be incorporated back into East Prussia. Yet another unlawfully stolen province has been returned to the German nation. Okay. And the population there was overwhelmingly German. Whether that means anything or not, that's another question, but it was overwhelmingly German. Okay. Just because the population is German doesn't necessarily mean that it should belong to Germany, but it's just many nations seem to claim boundaries based upon who's living there as their justification for who gets to own the territory. Okay, we need more motorization. As opposed to who has the military might to take and hold the territory. Hello, Jiang Bright. How you doing? Well, thank you. Very good. Thank you very much. That's very, very good of you to say so. You don't have cores on Memel. Well, we should have cores on Memel. I haven't looked at it because, like I say, Memel was definitely part of the old German Empire. It was overwhelmingly German population. Danzig, I would say, was about 90% German population. The Danzig corridor, by the time World War II starts, it is a majority Polish population, but probably somewhere between, I would say realistically, somewhere between 40 and 60% of the Germans that were living in the former German Empire territories that have been given over to Poland have moved to Germany. So, a lot of it, like Guderian was born somewhere in, I think more over here, and had family estates that they had lost. So, to Poland. And so, there's a lot of that stuff going on. Okay, 70 days. I don't know if I want to spend 70 days doing that. Okay, 70 days. Naval, that may come later. We're not looking at massive auxiliary autobahn. Yes, we control all of that. Increases the economic fatigue. Considerably increase. Why does expanding this increase economic fatigue? I don't get that. See, that's always like, I don't know. If anything, I think that would alleviate economic fatigue. Aeronautic funding, production costs. Yeah, we'll do this 35 days. Okay, you do have some money for, yes. Okay, so they can either print money or get money from other sources. Long term is good. Yeah, we can talk about the money situation. But yes, early in the 18th century and earlier, it was Polish land, so the German population became kind of yes. Absolutely, it's going back and forth territory. I'm just going to call you Lore. Lore G. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Sorry, but yes, Lore. Yes, absolutely. You have the carving up of Poland between Russia, Prussia, and Austria in the different stages through the 18th century, and then the rebirth briefly of Poland under Napoleon. And then once he's gone, all of it taken back absolutely there. Short term. Lorg. Okay, Lorg, that works. I can get Lorg. Thank you for giving that. Who deserves what land? Some people claim I'm not a native. Well, I was born in California. My parents were born in California. At least one of my grandparents was born in California. So I am not an immigrant to California. But nor do I, to the best of my knowledge at least, do I have any pre-Columbian, meaning before Columbus, ancestors from North and South America. So the pre-Columbian peoples, and to the best of my knowledge, the main peoples that populate North and South America are sort of third wave immigrants as far as anthropologists and others can tell. So they're not the original people either, that there were multiple waves of immigration into the Americas, coming over in the last ice age and whatnot, and then another immigration, and then another immigration. So, and if we want to look at, Israel, Judea, they definitely weren't the first people there, because we have the whole story well documented of, Moses leading the people out of, and they weren't necessarily from here originally, but that they had immigrated to Egypt, and then Moses leads the Israelites out and wanders around in the desert for a long time, and then eventually conquers Judea, Israel, because actually those are two different places, Judea and Israel, that were both Jewish and both existed at the same time, two different kingdoms, but basically conquer this, and maybe some of the East Bank as well. And so they basically my understanding is, what would be the term? Genocided the original population because God told them to do so. Kill everyone, kill every animal, every beast. So Old Testament stuff. But so, and often the Phoenicians and others were sort of owning the coastline where they were more interior land. So, yeah, do they own this land? Sort of, kind of. Now, they get sort of pushed out mostly by the Romans. But does that mean that this belongs to the Arabs that live there now? Or do they get to take it back? Who's the rightful owner? The rightful owner, quite honestly, is the people that can take and hold the land. It's not stealing. Again, this is sort of, they stole the land. No, the colonists coming, they didn't steal one single bit of land. They did not steal one single bit of land. They actually bought Long Island from the people that lived there. They actually gave them something that they wanted. And the people, you mean you're giving me all this just to move away from here? Yeah, thank you. We're out of here. Now, we think of it as a bunch of beads and whatever nowadays, but it's also tomahawks and other metal items that made them locally wealthy. And no, they conquered the land. They didn't steal the land. They conquered the land. And they often conquered it from places like Mexico or Spain, or bought it from France. A lot of this was bought from France. So they did not steal one bit of land. They conquered it. And every bit of territory on this planet, the current residents conquered the land from somebody else. Nobody is, to the best of my knowledge, the original inhabitants of that bit of land, like the first settlers, and these are the descendants of the first settlers that showed up there. In fact, humanity conquers, I think, most of this from the Neanderthals. So yeah, all human land is conquered land. There is no non-conquered land. And anybody who spouts that nonsense are Marxists trying to get you to feel ashamed of your things so they can destroy your culture. Just read something long ago. It was in a place where your grandparents were born decides if you are an immigrant or not. Culturally, yes. Well, yeah, like I say, I have at least one grandparent that was born in California. And so, yeah, I'm not an immigrant. Now, I'm not of Spanish descent or Spanish culture, nor am I Native American or Indian. And also this modern day thing, the people that live here are Indians. Yes, they are Indians. Because, and now maybe sort of this sort of somewhat come to be sort of specifically this is the Indies. 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 Now this is the West Indies. This is the East Indies. So people from here are, wait for it, Indians. People from up here are Eskimos. Different ethnic group, different racial group. They're Eskimo. Now, all you know, the indie games. Yes, exactly. Tingle, that's where all the indie games come from. But this is the Indies. This was the West Indies. Now, this is sort of mislabeled by Columbus because they have sort of a vague idea that this exists down here. Sort of a vague idea, and Cathay, or China, as we would sort of call it, is up here. And so they sort of kind of think they're finding these islands that existed out here that they have just, like I say, very vague notions of. And so because Columbus, I know this is not World War II history. Columbus thinks the world, most people of any learning know the world is round. Back in Ptolemaic Egypt, by doing some math and whatnot, they figure out the world is round. And they actually, the Ptolemaic, I think it was actually not Ptolemy the ruler, but Ptolemy the mathematician, thinker, or whatever, because there's a bunch of people. It's a Greek name. A bunch of Greeks lived in Egypt. Another story. Actually, I think it's the diameter of the Earth, pretty correct. But Columbus thinks the diameter of the Earth is much smaller. So when he thinks that when he's about, and their navigation isn't quite precise, but when he's about here, he thinks he should be about here. And so when they keep going and not finding anything, and then they find these small islands, yay, land, they think they're way over here. So, and sort of went by China. That China may have been north, up. Yeah, obviously they weren't up here. Columbus doesn't explore this part, but thinks that China's north up to there. But, so yeah, Columbus is just bad on the size of the Earth. Not so much. Well, a little. I mean, they also, North America should be more south. I mean, Americas should be further south. It's not so far north. This map is incorrect there. But they're not hugely off on the latitude. Well, West India means indigenous. It was used by merchants when spread and became this mess of words. Absolutely, it's a mess of words. But the idea that they're not Indians, or you shouldn't call pre-Columbian peoples of the Americas Indians, that's a legitimate English word usage. Now, I'm not saying that that's what they didn't call themselves that. They didn't know that India existed. They weren't calling themselves Indians. So yeah, no, of course not. Okay, what do we okay, we still have enough merchant vessels, I guess. Oh, do I do destroyers? Are there mine-laying destroyers? Let's look. I haven't really looked at the naval models and what I can build here. Any of these mine layers? Would that be depth chart? No, I don't see mines on this. Torpedo range. I like mine layers. Doesn't look like anything has mine laying. Sad gamer noises. You don't have to add mines to the template, or is this mod different? Hello, Drunken Barbarian. Well, this mod is specifically designed, and I looked at it a little more carefully here. You get specific models of tanks. You don't get variants from that. So it's locked into the historical ones. And that is a very good way to go, and the way I would prefer mostly to go, as opposed to being able to, build your own things. But I would like to see if there's mine laying. Oh, no, not that charge is mine laying. I don't see mine laying. Is that a tech that's needed here? We have mine laying here. Contact mine laying, submarine, magnetic mine. What model would it be, though? No, I don't know. German mine. I don't know German naval vessels well at all. 38. And it very well may be here. I just don't know and haven't found it yet. Obviously, I've not researched through much of this. Or any of it, because I really don't care that much about it. Germans, I don't know how much in ship size they did mine laying, but they definitely did mine laying. They have done more small boat mine or large boat mine laying or something, you know, but something that would be categorized as a boat and not a ship. I don't even, because I don't know where I would expect to see that here. Okay, well, I don't see that. Okay, so I guess we won't be doing any light vessels if we can't lay mines. That's the main reason why I would want to use them. Okay, submarines, build submarines. Scroll down in the window that opens when you click the ships. Okay, IKB. I will come. Yeah. You mean in their production here? Is this where you're talking about? Or in the research? Just I was looking. No, cancel. I keep doing that wrong. Cancel, yes. I want to click over here. So yeah, nothing, zero mine laying here. There, let's come back to research. Okay. Oh, here, okay. Yes, I hadn't scrolled down. Okay. Torpedo. Well, don't see mine laying there. Cool. What is this? Is this a destroyer? A light cruiser, yeah. Not that I'm going to research all the way to one of these just to get mine laying, but no, I am not. At all innate, as you can, I'll tell by now. Knowledgeable on these. Okay, no, not seeing mine laying here. So there's nothing that's going to research fairly soon. Could Canada declare war on its own without the consent of Britain if it wanted to in this time period? I don't. Because it's a dominion, and see, the British Empire has multiple statuses within it for sure. Realize, and we'll click over here, and I think hopefully see the right flag. Realize this is still the flag of Canada at the time. It's not yet gone to the maple leaf. That's just sort of an important indicator. The head of state, to the best of my knowledge, still to this day, of Canada is the Queen. I think at the time, you need the monarch's approval to declare war. I don't know that that's changed. And I don't know if you need Parliament's approval to declare war. Because in the United States, it's the Senate that declares war, not the House of Representatives. So, and you don't have to ask the House of Representatives. It's just the state. The president in the United States cannot declare war. It is only the Senate. And so I just Googled it. The Germans had almost no mine-laying ships. Most of them seem to have been captured from mainly Norway and Yugoslavia. Thanks, Drunken Barbarian. You do need well, I'm trying to think back then, not now, and maybe you do need Parliament's approval But I think you also need the monarch's approval as well. Yeah, well, yeah, it's you need to say king back then. But I was saying earlier, still to this day, Canada's head of state is the Queen, I believe, officially. And I think you need the monarch's approval back in World War II. And I don't think Canada or Australia or New Zealand, which are dominions, could declare war on its own. Now, do realize, and I don't know about Britain, I don't know when Britain for sure was last at war, but realize the last time America, people that talk about America being defeated in war, really is not true. It's... Yeah, the War of 1812, you can sort of argue that maybe. I mean, obviously the British burnt the capital. Well, the last battle that was actually fought after the peace treaty was signed, though not necessarily in effect, I'm not even sure, which was the Battle of New Orleans. Andrew Jackson kicks the English ass pretty hard. A much bigger English army that were all veteran units from fighting in the Napoleonic Wars, so it wasn't like, just some half-trained units. No, but Andrew Jackson kicks their ass. But yes, of course, earlier the English burnt the capital. But I don't think the U.S. has lost the war. Someone could try to correct me if they're wrong. But do realize the U.S. has not been at war since 1945 and the surrender of Japan. It has not been at war since 1945. So it might be defeated militarily in minor overseas actions, get driven out of Vietnam or out of Afghanistan or something, but the U.S. hasn't declared war against Vietnam or Afghanistan. So the U.S. has not declared war since 1945. And so that means a lot in how America deals with things, if you don't know. So they did not need permission to come to support the bridge. Well, no, see, he asked, can declare war on its own. Well, of course, it wasn't a nation in 1918. Though Canada is unable to invade the U.S., though it's able to defend against American invasion of the U.S. The U.S. thought they were just going to march into Canada. Oops, that didn't work out very well. Yeah, it would also need the king. And this is so that means it can't declare it on its own. Meaning, yeah, I got to get the king's permission. So I guess if the king wanted to give Canada permission to, say, declare war, I don't know, on Japan, but the rest of the English Empire not, might technically be able, but again, the king has to approve that, is my understanding. But no, I'm not any great scholar. Oh, we need to trade for more rubber, which is going to become a problem. Oh, Venezuela is not keeping up with its rubber shipments. Okay. Now, why can't we get the Dutch East India trade influence is so bad? But I think we are actually, ahead of Britain on trade. No, I do understand that this is the Netherlands and this is a sub thingy over here, but why wouldn't we be able to trade there at peacetime? Now, once we go to war, that's a different matter. But I really think. Where is it in here? Continue autarky. I really, really think this is inappropriate here. I really not that you got the autarky thing, but that you're giving the bad trade opinions. Because why can't I trade with China? And you do realize that there is the Chinese-German trade agreement going on at this time, and is only stopped maybe by now it's no longer because of Japanese pressure in there, but that I do this continuing autarky thing. China is a massive trading partner with Germany. It isn't until really that you're pushing in the war really flares up with Japan. Does Germany finally pull out its military mission to China? So they're buddies with China. So, and I don't know, because I know there's a newer version out, but and why is Manchukuo not? Why? I mean, that's just a sub thing of whether it's allowed to trade or not. Something of Japan. So Mexico, I don't know why Mexico wouldn't trade with Germany. Luxembourg would be happy to sell steel to Germany. They were a big steel producer. If people just generally didn't know. Belgium, yeah, they would trade. Netherlands, very much. My understanding, the Netherlands were massively trading with Germany and Italy right up until they get invaded. Maybe somebody could point to something that says different, but yeah, I don't like this negative opinion because of autarky. Definitely Germany was pursuing autarky, absolutely, but to cut off trade like that is just, I think, inappropriate. Okay. Yeah, our last state of war was 1930. Yeah, I'm sure that's when it starts. We didn't even have an official war with Argentina. It was being officially called the Falklands Conflict. Yeah, okay. Well, so presumably it's the same ending, drunken barbarian of. Yeah, but this is what's killing my relationship with them, is this autarky event. Otherwise, I would have better relations, Mohammed. Yeah, so Britain was at war with Japan, and so at the same signing agreement, I presume that ends the U.S. war with Japan also ends Britain's war with Japan. And like the Falklands. So there's military actions, but so the U.S. has not been at war since 1945, and that is, like I say, that we drafted in Vietnam and whatnot, but it wasn't a declaration of war. The Senate didn't approve one. Now the Senate does approve the Gulf of Tonkin thing that allows continued American operations, military operations, but that's different than declaring a war. So I don't know that I can effectively improve relations enough to trade with them. Not that I couldn't, but that just seems a bit much. So for some reason, Venezuela isn't. So I have no ability really to get a significant more rubber in. So now once war starts, absolutely all these rubber becomes a a serious issue for Germany. That absolutely does. I don't want to try to minimize that. And in my opinion, this is where Hearts of Iron, not this mod, but Hearts of Iron falls down. The inability to stockpile. I mean, we do now have a fuel stockpile, but the inability to rubber stockpile or some of the other things, because nations, in Germany in particular, was doing that. I don't have good figures on the rubber stockpile. I like the idea of having rubber, synthetic rubber, broken out different from oil, because they are sort of two different plants. We'll get those three done, and hopefully, see, that will be 8, 16 more rubber. And we're going to lose that. So, well, let's build a couple more. We'll build them out here in the east. And there we go. So that now getting priority, because all that earth sources. This is why you produce. So you need to trade. Or you produce synthetic circuits, so you need to trade. Okay, don't quite understand that. Oh, absolutely. I totally get the idea of synthetic factories, but and need to do so. But I'm just saying we should be able to trade prior to. Okay, what are my stockpiles on just basic weapons and artillery? The artillery, okay, 1,000 scout cars. Got lots of scout cars. That's good. Infantry equipment, 40,000. I guess we use some more heavy infantry equipment. I guess. Don't know quite the attrition rate we're going to be facing. So let's do. Here. Another 5 of those. You need experienced send guns. Yeah. That rubber processing will help. That's why I was doing it, because I did realize that this was going to become an issue. Well, no, let's come over here. Panzer 2F, artillery. No, I do like the way you've done the artillery. That's for sure. Okay, let's come back over here. Okay, order by task, orders by directive, order by task, recovery rate. Okay, well, see, I'm not going to use planning, so I don't need planning, max planning. Planning speed, I don't need planning because I'm not going to use that. Recovery rate, reinforcement rates. Okay. Warfare. Okay, so either one of these can go down these paths. So we'll do recovery rate. Where oh, we would be able to do this. What? Is there a problem with? Do I have to get all of the near tier duns first? Huh. Not gonna grab that AA. Oh, well, thinking here. I don't really know how useful AA is, so to me it's always sort of lower priorities. Now I thought we could get to here, good, I guess we can't. I don't know. Because I think I would rather, not that I'm entirely trying to avoid that. Oh, 38 Ts. That should be a gimme once I get Czechoslovakia. You should just give me that tech. Okay, well, we're going to end the episode, not the live stream, but the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, of course, please subscribe and tell me why I'm wrong in whatever I'm saying. But you got to tell me why, not just that I'm wrong. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.